I'm Delaney Ward, 34 finance manager for the family hotel in Napa. My brother grabbed the mic at the end-of-year gathering and bragged loud enough for 50 guests to hear Mom's handing me 35% of the shares. You get zip. Champagne popped, cheers erupted, everyone toasted his big win. I stood quiet remote in my palm thumb hovering over the button. Mom gave a tiny nod from the head table like she'd already signed the papers in her head. My brother's grin stretched ear to ear, eyes daring me to clap along. I didn't. Instead, I smiled sweet as the Cabernet they were pouring and asked, Mom, should I tell them or will you? The room froze. Glasses stopped midair. His smirk vanished. Tell us what, he snapped, voice cracking. I clicked once. The giant screen behind him flashed alive. One line, one number. Enough to bury the lie he'd just swallowed whole. If family ever screwed you over for cash, smash that like button and subscribe right now. You won't believe what happens next. Late that night, the ballroom gleamed under chandeliers, shadows flickering across velvet drapes. I approached the projector setup, USB gliding into the slot with a faint snap. The massive screen ignited, casting a cold glow over the tables. First slide struck hard. Bank debt $7 million. The full contract dominated the display signed 18 months prior. Dad's precise block letters anchored the bottom line, Mom's flowing script curving beside it like a false promise. A sharp intake of breath swept the room. Heads turned, eyes widened, conversations dying mid-sentence. I clicked forward. Second slide. Cumulative losses $2.2 million. A clean bar chart illustrated occupancy rates stuck at 42% over 12 months. The ambitious new wing sold as our salvation drained funds with every vacant room. Hallways designed for luxury echoed empty housekeeping carts rolling through silence during what should have been busy seasons. The figures stood undeniable. My Aunt Norma, the head accountant who had managed our ledgers for 2 decades, rose from her seat at the front table. Her chair pushed back with a deliberate scrape. I issued warnings back in July, she stated, tone firm and unyielding. Presented your mother with detailed projections. She instructed me to suppress them until the expansion generated revenue. Norma's gaze fixed on Mom without wavering. Revenue never materialized. Weston charged down the aisle, elbowing past relatives. He planted his hands on the podium, veins bulging in his neck. You fabricated all of this. His accusation rang out, but his voice wavered at the edges. I maintained composure and zoomed the contract image until Mom's signature consumed the screen, every loop and cross enlarged for clarity. Does that look familiar? Mom, I inquired, keeping my delivery measured. Mom gripped the tablecloth fabric, bunching under her fingers. Her eyes darted side to side, searching for exits that didn't exist. She attempted speech once, lips parting, then closing without sound. Dad sat immobile next to her, shoulders hunched, staring downward as though the floor might open and swallow him whole. Reactions rippled outward. A businessman at table 5 muttered under his breath, pulling out his phone to snap photos. Waitstaff paused with loaded trays, champagne bubbles settling untouched. An elderly couple exchanged horrified glances, their dessert forks suspended. Whispers escalated into a low hum, questions forming but unspoken. One investor folded his arms tight, jaw set. Another leaned to his partner, gesturing at the screen with urgency. Weston tugged at the projector cable, disconnecting it abruptly. The display went dark, yet the data remained etched in everyone's minds. Reconnect and show it's phony, I challenged quietly. He hesitated, fingers frozen midair. Norma stood resolute, arms crossed in quiet authority. Mom's gaze lifted briefly, met mine, then fell away again. No rebuttal emerged. No explanation offered, only the crushing silence of exposure. The atmosphere thickened with unrest. Chairs shifted uneasily. Glasses clinked as hands trembled. A server near the buffet dropped a spoon, the metallic ring cutting through like a gunshot. Phones vibrated, ignored on tabletops. Investors scribbled notes furiously. Staff huddled in corners, faces drained of color. Weston retreated one step, sweat tracing lines down his temples under the warm lights. I shut down the projector myself, the mechanism whirring to a stop. The evidence had landed exactly where it needed. Weston's voice cracked as he gripped the podium, knuckles whitening against polished mahogany. His chest rose and fell in rapid bursts, eyes darting between me and the blank screen. Before another accusation could form, Weston's girlfriend Sierra surged to her feet from the side table. Her crimson gown caught the light like fresh blood. I'm not carrying $7 million in debt for your family, she declared, words sharp enough to cut glass. High heels pounded the marble floor as she bolted for the exit, clutch bag clutched tight under one arm. Weston released his hold and lunged after her, face contorted in raw desperation. Sierra, stop. Let me explain. His plea cracked with humiliation and fear echoing off vaulted ceilings. He shoved through the swinging doors, footsteps, frantic voice, fading into muffled begging that dissolved in the hallway. The doors swung shut behind him, leaving only the faint scent of her jasmine perfume hanging in the air. My grandfather, Ralph 83, and the man who built this hotel from a single vineyard inn, rose unsteadily from his honored seat. Cane gripped firmly, he slammed it down, thud booming across the ballroom like a judge's gavel. Quincy Ward, you're killing my 50-year legacy. The accusation thundered, aimed squarely at Dad. Grandpa's eyes blazed with betrayal, hand trembling on the cane head. Mom bowed her head immediately, strands of hair falling forward to shield her face, body shrinking under the verbal blow. Our investor Harold, positioned with the executive group near the center, pushed back his chair and stood tall. Consider my $3 million withdrawn at dawn, he stated flatly. Unless satisfactory answers come tonight, I pull every partner with me. His ultimatum landed, cold gaze sweeping the tables for support. Nods rippled through the investor cluster, briefcases snapping open as documents were reviewed under dimmed lights. The room fractured into pockets of agitation. Aunts clutched pearls, uncles scrolled frantically through emails on glowing screens. Long-term employees near the kitchen entrance huddled, one covering her mouth to stifle sobs. Board members formed tight circles, voices low but intense, debating immediate damage control. Dad attempted to rise, lips parting for defense, but Grandpa's cane struck the floor again, sharp crack silencing him mid-motion. Sierra's vacated seat rocked gently from her abrupt departure. Weston's discarded blazer slumped over the chair-back, silk tie dangling loose like a noose. The abandoned champagne flute beside it fizzed, weakly, bubbles rising and popping in defeat. Harold checked his gold watch, signaling readiness to depart. Mom remained bowed, fingers interlaced so tightly joints paled. Grandpa lowered himself back into his chair, breath labored but resolve unbroken. Started with one guest room and a dream, he grumbled, voice carrying to nearby tables. Harold motioned a server for his overcoat, buttoning it with deliberate calm. The atmosphere shifted from festivity to crisis, loyalties splintering in the charged silence. Cousins exchanged wide-eyed stares across linen tablecloths. A junior manager slipped out a side-door phone pressed to ear. Investors compared notes on tablet screens reflecting grim faces. Staff whispered about unpaid bonuses, fear spreading like wildfire. Dad sat rigid, hands flat on the table as if glued. Mom's bowed posture never lifted, shame radiating in waves. Grandpa adjusted his cufflinks, eyes never leaving Dad. Harold collected his leather portfolio, tucking away contracts. The ballroom clock ticked louder in the void, each second amplifying the fallout. Weston's absence left a gaping hole at the family table, his plate untouched, napkin crumpled. Sierra's exit had ignited the powder keg. Grandpa's words poured gasoline. Harold's threat lit the match. The once celebratory space now pulsed with survival instinct. Alliances realigned in hushed negotiations. Phones buzzed with urgent texts to lawyers and accountants. A waiter cleared Sierra's glass, liquid sloshing over the rim. The scent of roasted meats turned cloying under stress. Grandpa leaned on his cane, waiting. Harold paused at the threshold, one hand on the door. Mom's bowed head stayed fixed, a statue of regret. The room fell quieter than a closed vault, tension thick enough to choke on. My thoughts snapped back, 5 months to the glass-walled conference room on the hotel's third-floor, afternoon sun pouring through panoramic windows that framed endless rows of grapevines. Mom and Dad occupied the far side of the polished mahogany table, a hefty contract packet centered between us like a loaded weapon. We require your personal guarantee. Mom explained with practiced calm, nudging the top document my way. $7 million to complete the Tower Edition. Purely procedural, the bank insists, for family-owned operations. Dad leaned forward, uncapped Mont Blanc already in hand. As finance manager, your profile bolsters approval, he pressed. Without it, construction halts, jobs vanish, growth dies. Their expressions mirrored boardroom pitches, confident, persuasive, impossible to refuse. I scanned the pages, escalating interest, sweeping collateral, unlimited personal exposure. My pulse quickened at clauses that could strip my savings, my home, everything I'd built independently. Later that night in my corner office, my assistant Finley entered with a slim folder and troubled eyes. "Pulled this from the server archives," she whispered, spreading printouts across my desk. Vendor billing dates, conflict with bid submissions. Emails revealed manipulated timestamps, costs inflated through obscure subcontractors. Finley had traced wire transfers, millions dispersed months before final permits. We packaged the evidence and emailed our outside counsel. 48 hours later, confirmation arrived. Fabricated invoices concealed prior liens, the loan already hemorrhaging viability. I returned to the same conference room the following morning, contract unsigned. "I'm out," I declared, sliding the stack back across the table. "This is an investment. It's collapse waiting to happen." Dad's features darkened instantly. "You don't love your brother," he shot back, volume climbing. "Weston's inheritance rides on expansion. Deny this and you ruin him." Mom interjected gently. "Family shields, family Delaney. That's the rule." Weston swallowed their narrative whole during exclusive dinners weeks later. "Shares are clean, no baggage," he messaged me, emoji laden with triumph after their closed-door session. 35% in my name, zero complications. He routinely ignored the operational digests I circulated, deleted finance alerts unread. Charm and schmooze trumped spreadsheets every time. The transfer paperwork landed in his inbox, pre-filled, his signature scrawled without hesitation where mine had been demanded. Refusing carved a hollow ache behind my ribs, guilt slicing deep for the sibling bond still flickering despite the deception. Yet endorsing meant shackling my future to their inevitable crash. I selected honesty over complicity, heartbeat thundering as I exited that sunlit room, fully aware the reckoning loomed. The storm hit that same night. Harold stormed out of the ballroom, briefcase wheels rattling across marble like machine gun fire. He halted abruptly at the concierge desk, yanked a withdrawal form from his inner jacket pocket, and scrawled his signature in thick, aggressive strokes. $3 million effective immediately, he barked at the night manager on duty. The pen scratched loudly in the stunned lobby, echoing off high ceilings. Harold snapped a quick photo of the signed document, attached it to an email addressed to our attorney Liam, and hit send before the heavy glass doors swung shut behind him with a final thud. Within mere minutes, Liam's reply pinged on the front desk tablet, bank notified, partial freeze incoming. The system updated instantly across all terminals. 50% of operating accounts locked down, red warnings flashing urgently on every screen. POS machines at reception halted mid-transaction, screens blinking, declined in bold crimson letters. A couple attempting late checkout at 11:47 p.m. stared in disbelief as their card was rejected for the third consecutive time. "We paid the deposit weeks ago," the husband protested loudly. The clerk apologized profusely, hands trembling, unable to override the system lock. Word spread through the corridors like wildfire in dry brush. Housekeepers on the night shift clustered in the laundry room, whispering frantically about bounced direct deposits hitting their personal accounts. Two bellhops overheard the chatter and bolted for the employee exit uniforms, half unbuttoned in haste. By midnight, 10 staff members, front desk agents, valet attendants, maintenance technicians submitted resignations via the internal HR app, citing payment security concerns as the sole reason. Their digital signatures stacked rapidly in the system, each one a small but devastating earthquake. Checkout chaos erupted in the lobby. Guests wheeled suitcases into a growing, agitated line, voices rising in frustration. A family of 4 argued vehemently over a $1,200 incidental hold that refused to release. A businessman slammed his platinum card on the counter, demanding immediate manual processing. Phones emerged, videos recording every heated gesture and raised voice. One woman live-streamed directly to her followers. "Luxury hotel can't even take payment. Avoid Napa Ward at all costs." The clip skyrocketed to 5,000 views before the valet retrieved her Tesla from the garage. Dad convened an emergency huddle in the manager's office, fluorescent lights buzzing harshly overhead. "Override the freeze now," he ordered the IT lead sharply. "Impossible," came the immediate reply. "Bank side lock. Requires board approval." Mom paced relentlessly, heels clicking against tile, phone pressed to her ear, pleading with the lender's emergency line. No answer came. The night auditor resorted to printing paper receipts by hand, carbon copies smudging under sweaty palms. Luggage piled up unattended in corners, tags fluttering loosely. A honeymoon couple demanded a full refund in cash, non-existent under the freeze. Security escorted them to an ATM in the gift shop that also displayed insufficient funds. Shouts echoed off vaulted ceilings. Children began to cry. Porters abandoned their posts entirely. The once pristine lobby devolved into a bazaar of complaints, rolling bags blocking aisles, staff vanishing one by one into the night. 1 week later, Finley texted a photo of the front gate, the wrought iron bars chained shut under a freshly painted sign, temporarily closed for renovations. No guests milled the driveway. Valets stood idle, keys dangling from empty boards. The parking lot, usually packed with luxury sedans, held only a handful of employee cars gathering dust. Dad drafted the mass termination email from his home office, cursor blinking on send for 20 minutes. Subject line: operational pause, immediate staff reduction. He attached severance calculations, 2 weeks' pay, no benefits continuation, and signed Quincy Ward, CEO. The message blasted to the remaining 200 inboxes at 9:03 a.m. Phones vibrated across town, in apartments, at second job interviews, during grocery runs. Reservation lines lit up within the hour. Travel agents, corporate bookers, wedding planners, 80% of forward bookings vanished in a digital avalanche. Confirmation numbers canceled, en masse deposits refunded from the unfrozen sliver of accounts. The online portal crashed under the surge, error messages replacing availability calendars. Brides-to-be screamed into voicemails. Executives rerouted to Sonoma competitors. Finley forwarded screenshots of the fallout, a longtime concierge weeping openly in the staff break room, mascara streaking as she read the email aloud to stunned colleagues. Another cook dropped his apron on the prep table, tears splashing stainless steel. A maid clutched her phone, sobbing into her locker, 10 years of service reduced to a PDF attachment. The lobby, once echoing with laughter and clinking glasses, now amplified every footstep of the skeleton crew boarding windows. Dust sheets draped chandeliers. Champagne flutes gathered in crates. Delivery trucks turned away at the gate, produce rotting in the California sun. Social media exploded with tagged photos of the closure sign, hashtags Anchar's Napa Ward down, trending locally. Dad stared at the sent folder, face ashen. The vineyard view from his window mocked the empire's sudden shrink. Phones rang unanswered. Voicemail filled. The website auto-reply promised updates soon, but no one believed it. 3 months of legal battles dragged on, depositions stacking like unpaid bills in fluorescent-lit conference rooms across the valley. The auctioneer's gavel finally fell in a packed county hall under harsh overhead lights, sold $3.8 million. Bidders dispersed rapidly. The primary lender claimed the proceeds, leaving a gaping deficit of $3.2 million after attorney fees, accumulated back taxes, and previously undisclosed liens were deducted. Remaining creditors circled the carcass, slicing from assets that had long existed primarily on outdated balance sheets. Mom filed for divorce the exact same week legal papers served to Dad's now empty executive office, amid half-packed moving boxes and scattered memorabilia. The family court judge divided what little survived the collapse: her, the over-leveraged downtown condo with its ballooning monthly payments; him, the classic Jaguar now parked indefinitely under a protective tarp in a rented storage unit. No spousal support awarded, no lingering joint accounts, separation absolute on official documents, devastating in everyday reality. She vacated the property before the final signatures, fully dried personal items boxed in Sharpie-labeled cartons stacked by movers. Weston drifted through a series of temporary positions, his once potent sales charisma rendered ineffective without the prestigious family brand to leverage. He eventually secured a cramped one-bedroom rental in Oakland, walls so thin that neighboring disputes filtered through nightly like unwanted radio static. His updated resume still listed hospitality executive in bold lettering, yet barista shifts at local cafes covered basic rent and minimal utilities. The heavily touted 35% share allocation evaporated entirely during the forced sale. Earlier assurances reduced to meaningless echoes in empty hallways. A weathered envelope arrived at my temporary mailing address. Grandpa's unsteady cursive handwriting scrawled across the front in faded blue ink. Inside lay a single handwritten page. Delaney, your unflinching courage spared me from total disgrace and ruin. Insisting on the truth preserved what scant honor remains in our name. Thank you for shouldering the heaviest load. Tucked within the fold, a single pressed vineyard leaf carried the faint lingering scent of earth and better harvests long past. Official court transcripts chronicled the empire's downfall in cold, clinical prose. Mom's sworn deposition testimony repeatedly avoided direct eye contact with counsel. Dad's responses cracked audibly under pointed cross-examination. Weston skipped the conclusive hearing altogether, sending vague text excuses about unavoidable traffic delays. The hotel's once opulent marble lobby now accommodated guided tours under fresh corporate ownership banners, unfamiliar faces photographing spaces we had considered permanent fixtures. Grandpa's personal letter remained on my kitchen counter for several weeks, reread multiple times until the paper edges softened and ink began to smudge faintly. The outstanding shortfall weighed on both parents like an unending second mortgage, built entirely on regret and poor judgment. Weston's outgoing communications dwindled to silence following his initial angry outbursts. The sprawling enterprise that once dominated regional hospitality, compressed into a series of archived legal folders officially stamped, resolved total loss. I wrestled 2 weeks before blocking Mom's number thumb hovering over the icon until the screen timed out repeatedly. The parent company's remaining shares, my last tangible tie to the legacy, sold quietly to a venture capital group for a modest but clean payout. I accepted a senior financial analyst role at a fintech startup in San Francisco, commuting daily over the Bay Bridge city skyline, gradually replacing endless vineyard horizons with steel and glass. Nights in my new studio brought the internal tug-of-war vivid memories of holiday dinners around the long oak table. Mom's secret recipes for ossobuco, shared childhood secrets whispered under blanket forts. Guilt surfaced like bubbles in overfilled champagne had I abandoned blood for principle. Yet every recalled deception, every forged document and hidden lien hardened my resolve into unbreakable steel. Enabling the lies would chain me to perpetual cleanup duty. I chose severance, clean, final, self-preserving, no more midnight damage control calls. Weston's messages piled unread in a growing stack. You destroyed everything we had. Selfish traitor who never cared. Answer me, coward. Notifications stacked relentlessly, then muted entirely. I deleted the entire thread without opening the latest rant. His digital anger and echo I refused to amplify or engage. Family isn't a reason to swallow lies. Silence is complicity. Truth is freedom. From the Bay Bridge overlook on clear evenings after work, I glanced south toward Napa's distant hills vines, blurring into a hazy memory under the fading golden light of sunset. The sale closed escrow in 45 days, funds wired directly to my new account, untouched by old debts. My first paycheck from the fintech firm felt lighter, earned without family strings. Colleagues asked about my weekend plans. I spoke of hikes in Marin, not vineyard tours. The office buzzed with code reviews and market forecasts, a world where numbers told honest stories. Mom tried once more through a mutual cousin voicemail, pleading for coffee to talk like adults. I let it expire, unheard. Weston surfaced on social media with filtered photos from dive bars, captions hinting at betrayal by blood. Followers dwindled. Likes turned to pity emojis. I scrolled past, unfollowed, moved on. Grandpa's vineyard leaf from his note pressed between pages of my planner served as bookmark and reminder. The fintech role offered equity growth, a future built on merit. San Francisco's fog rolled in each morning, cleansing the slate. Napa faded to postcard status, beautiful, distant, no longer home. The lesson crystallized over late-night runs along the Embarcadero: loyalty without honesty is shackles. I ran faster, lungs burning clean. Truth had cost everything familiar, yet gifted space to breathe. The bridge lights twinkled ahead, guiding forward, never back.